Get on to something a little bit about EMP, EMP-proof cars first, and but before I actually get into that exactly, I actually want to recall some things about Y2K, the big fears that were at that time. Actually, I did not think it was going to be a big deal because it could have been a big deal, but they were like working feverishly to fix the problems back then. And the banking industry didn't collapse, and the traffic lights worked, and all this kind of garbage. You should have seen the stuff Alex Jones was putting out back at that time, that the Russians were nuking us and everything. He lost a lot of credibility. And then, lo and behold, later on in that year, he just happened to waltz right into Bohemian Grove and get all his credibility back. Plus, the only guy that was able to do that, so you figure that out. Anyway, actually, I ordered computer components over to Y2K. I actually ordered them on December 30th, 1999. They were processed with my charge card over the internet, and they arrived from California and are delivered cross-country, no problem. Actually, people are looking at me, you're doing that? I did that, yeah. Because I didn't think there was going to be a problem in the United States. There were some studies that said there was going to be problems elsewhere in the world that could actually cause a little bit of a slowdown in the economy 6 months after Y2K. Even that never materialized because, if a computer-controlled pipeline had to be, controlled manually, they controlled it manually till they upgraded their computer. That's what they did. So anyway, I want to get on with this thing with EMP cars because back during Y2K, that was a big thing because they said, oh, the cars aren't going to work, or the traffic lights aren't going to work, or the fuel is not going to be available, or whatever. Man, they were saying this even amongst the computers in the cars, and it was like ridiculous. But the one thing I always said is where you actually have a Y2K type incident is going to be when there's going to be an EMP. And it may not even be from something that is from another nation. It could be from the solar system somehow. I mean, there was actually a time in the 1800s, I freaking forget the damn name of it. There was a time in the 1800s where they had something happen where if they had I'm not talking like a long time ago, this was a natural event, that something happened that today, if that same exact thing happened, it would have fried most of the electronics across the planet. And that would have been a Y2K for real due to nature. And that's a real problem. So what I actually have is I have several vehicles. I actually what the hell do I have? Four cars and a bike, a motorcycle, and 3 of them actually are EMP proof. They will not have a problem if there's any kind of electronic surge from the skies due to nature or from a weapon. And back in 2000, and I know that was ludicrous to think that there was going to be a problem with the cars because they're not programmed by dates. And the traffic lights, but man, the internet was ripe with these rumors left and right. But the thing is, back in 2000, there was a lot of cars that were available. They were older, but they were available that were pre-computer. Basically, the computer stuff came out in the 80s, and then they also had like the O2 sensors, the emission controls, and I think it was in 1996 they had the second set of, I forgot what the hell you call it, but it's like you have like a standardized scanner with the standardized codes in 1996. And 1996 is 18 years ago. But anything, from the 80s on will be fried. It'll be fried. And you're talking now, being that it's 2014, you're talking like, 25 years or more, where you need a car at least 30 years old now to be EMP proof. Or you have to have some kind of alternative way to make it run with maybe another distributor. And actually, I want to behoove you about doing this stuff because my cat's over here. I was like, what the hell's this noise? I just want to, actually, this is something to do for preparation. And I used to buy these economy cars because I used to drive a lot of miles and. Like 55,000 miles a year, travel, because I go all over the place. I'm not a salesman. It's accounting, finance, but there's clients and there's all kinds of projects going on, and some of them were, and I don't work around this area because it's a little more, not country, but it's suburbia, but I work more in the city area in Florida. And so I was driving 55,000 miles a year, so I buy a new car, and inside of like 4 years, I'd have way over 200,000 miles on it. I traded in, and I get $550 for it. So I got wise, and I said, "The hell with that shit! I'll just, I know how to fix cars. I just use the old ones, and I fix them." You know, it's cheaper. And then I like riding a ragtop. But I'm going to tell you, I have 3 cars, actually 2 cars and a bike that can run off of no problem with EMP. 78 El Camino is one of them. And also I have the Jeep, which is very, very important because that's a little Jeep. It's a little Suzuki. Actually, if you want an EMP car, you should really go with a Jeep, a CJ5, a pre-computer Jeep, a pre-computer Jeep. All these high-tech crap that people have with the latest four-wheel drive, electronic this, electronic that, that's going to actually shoot yourself in the foot with that kind of garbage. Big time, because all that junk, if there's an EMP, and I'm not even talking about it doesn't even have to be weaponized, there could be something coming from nature. That actually happened in the 1800s. I mean, I'm serious. I'll look that up again. I'll put it down there in the notes what the hell it was. I forgot what it was. I actually did a very brief video on it one time. But if you're not prepared, you're screwed. And actually, to tell you the truth, not only is a car going to be important for transportation, it's not exactly all that. See, where I like the Jeep is that you can use it for a lot of different things. It's, in other words, if you actually have to construct something, you have to move something from one point to another, pull something up in a vertical way or whatever like that, that little Jeep with the low is very, very, very important. And that thing is EMP proof. Now, a motorcycle, if you have a Harley Davidson, I don't know what the hell the new ones have, but that used to be new. I got it new. Anyway, I got it new when I rebuilt the whole thing on the inside of the engine. It's what do you do with Harleys, right? But I have, and actually used to run the point system. You can run 6-cylinder Chevy points versus the electronic ignition in a Harley Davidson. It's a very simple setup, and actually have the wire on the bottom with a connector. It's waterproof. You can unconnect it. You can put it in the plate. It's got the mark where you adjust it to. The points are already adjusted, and it's got the mark where it's at. Still has to line up. Just bolt it in. Just hook that one wire up, and off you go. Because I actually have the type of coil in it that runs both electronic and the point system. The type of coil on there that I have, the ignition coil, is not strictly electronic. It's also it's points. It runs points too. So actually, I have 3 vehicles that, if there was an EMP, they would all run. Now, I also have to say this. A lot of people say there's no way you could pump the gas, but yes, there is a way you could pump the gas, because you can always pump the gas out by hand by gas stations. But considering way over 97% of the cars out there aren't going to be running, there's going to be a hell of a lot of gas available at gas stations for a long period of time. And like I said, you wouldn't be using this vehicle necessarily to drive around. You'd be using it for other things. First off, if there's an EMP, you might be able to use the vehicle to produce its own electricity. If the grid goes down, you can actually use that, like my little Jeep. I could sit that. I found that thing can sit there and idle more efficiently than a little portable generator and still produce a good amount of electricity through an inverter and do its thing. And I've actually used it a lot of times for various construction projects using the low feature and stuff like that. So that thing is actually very, very important to me. So if you in the future, actually, if you really want to prep on some things, a lot of people, I tell people to get food, water, and stuff. In the event there's total peace in the world, let's say nothing ever happens. I mean, it's almost ludicrous to say that, but at one point in time, through nature, there probably is going to be an EMP, just like there's might be an earthquake someplace, or there might be a hurricane. And if it knocks down, the electrical grid won't be knocked down forever. There'll be ways to fix it. They'll get it done, but it'll take weeks. So you want to be prepared. And one thing is good to have is a vehicle, because another thing is, if you got to get somebody from point A to point B, you can actually charge them money for it too. You know what I mean? If they don't want to kill you for your car, but hey, you can do that, or they'll owe you a favor too. Provided there's some kind of honor if everything falls apart. Let's hope there is. But I just want to behoove people to look at that area, because it's one of these things. It's almost like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and I don't know if it's going to happen. But the simple common logic is that the easiest way to actually, if there was an attack on the United States, it would be EMP. Man, if there ever was one, it would be EMP. This has been discussed for I don't know how many years. I've been in the military for a long time. I was always aware of this type of stuff, the high altitude nuclear burst over 10,000 feet and all this type of stuff. One EMP could take out the whole entire grid system of most of the United States. And it's, I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to tell you right now, though, if you really dig into a lot of stuff that went on in history, and even how the fall of the Soviet Union came about and all this type of stuff, I think I went into some of it on some of my other videos, and I might point to a couple links on those videos where you just kind of jump in the middle, because one of them was on the Georgia Guidestones, and I kind of went into some other things. There actually is a globalist plan, and it's not just the Western elite, it's the Eastern elite too. It's all over. It's all over. They're basically working with each other, and there's an intramural contest going on. So us as the average population, if you want to keep freedom and keep the Bill of Rights alive and and everything like that, that's important. Individual rights for everybody across the globe is important. That's really where you have human justice for everybody, right? Individual rights. If there was a Bill of Rights as the law of the land to keep the governments in check everywhere in the world, we'd have a pretty damn good society, wouldn't we? Everywhere, no matter what culture we were, right? So, the only way to actually do that, though, to keep it that way, is you got to survive and think of number one first before you can think of all these wonderful ideals. And one thing to look at is having EMP-proof vehicles. This was a big hot topic during Y2K. And the EMP-proof vehicles were pretty damn old back then. They were basically almost 20 years old back then. It was like in the early 80s they came out with computerized cars. So now they're like 35 years old. Or more than 30 years old. And if there was an EMP today, very, very, very few vehicles would be running. And if you want to go bother with that, one of the things you might want to look into is an old motorcycle without an electronic ignition. And I know people hate Harley Davidson, but if you want to get a Sportster Harley Davidson, they're actually in a Harley Davidson world, they've knocked the Sportsters. Everybody's knocking something, man. It's no matter what you got, somebody knocks it. But I've always found the Sportster to be the simple Harley Davidson out there that's actually it's good. It's good to go, man. It's good to go. It's simple. And I can run 6-cylinder Chevy points on that, and it's EMP proof as all hell. And I can get 50 miles to the gallon, and even if it broke, I could push it. Say for instance it had a flat, flat would be hard to push, but you know what I mean. If something happened, I could still get it from point A to point B. It's not like a whole car where you have to abandon it a lot of times too. So try to think ahead on these things, and this is the way to prep. EMP-proof vehicle is important. Now, all these people that threw down like $35,000-$40,000 or more on these four-wheel drive vehicles, and they're thinking, yeah, I'm all set for the freaking, no, you're not, man. That electronic marvel is going to be a pile of electronic nothing as soon as there's an EMP. It's going to be old school stuff that's going to run. The people with the CJ3 Jeeps, the CJ5s, the Willys, and I got a Suzuki Jimny 1300 that's prior to the computer. It's actually, the Samurais came out with the computer. I don't have a computer in mine. Nothing. And I actually have an extra distributor for it with all the stuff inside of it. So I think ahead. I've been thinking ahead. But I'm not a worried about this stuff. But I just want to put this out for informational purposes, because a lot of times people look like, what should I do? How should I prepare? That's one way. And I know how to fix, well, I shouldn't say, because, I talk about, I fix the old cars. That sounds real easy. Actually, I know a lot of stuff, man. I know a lot of stuff about as good as a professional mechanic in many cases. I know a lot of stuff. I haven't really put I don't have any videos out on the more complicated stuff I have done on automotive stuff and bikes and stuff, because that was prior to my YouTube days. And I've done about every damn thing there is. I know some stuff. But, that's one thing you might want to do, because you want to know how to fix things yourself. If there's an emergency, you're not going to be able to call somebody and have them come over and fix it for you and use your charge card to have them fix it for you. You have to know how to do it. And that's what I realized too. So, I practice what I preach. It's not so easy to freaking do. It's a lot easier to preach it. It's a hell of a lot more work to actually do it. But, people out there prepping and stuff like that, EMP-proof vehicle is really important. And you say, where can you drive? It's not so much where you can drive. A car is extremely useful for many, 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 many things. As a matter of fact, say, for instance, you're in an actual super cold climate, and you ran out of kerosene, but you got fuel in your car. Now, if you're very careful and you have a very good tight exhaust system that's all welded, and you put a pipe on the end of the exhaust and you run it like 30 feet away from the car, you could sit in that car with the windows cracked open and get heat and survive too for as long as it runs. If you got an economy car, it can run a long, long time. That might get you through a few days where you get your other stuff prepared and fixed up, and you get over there. You get enough firewood or whatever you got to do. It might be this one time you just really need to warm up, and you got a car to do it. That's one aspect. But I also realized with my little Jeep, the Jeep is the best thing with the low, because I've used that for a number of construction projects in many, many different ways, where I had to drag something that was too heavy. I had to put something in something and put it someplace else. I had to pull something up. I had to pull like something straight in another way like that. Like it could be, wires or cables and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff I was doing with this thing. Dragging trees out of the way and putting them over here. And Jeep is actually the better thing to have than a car. And you want one that is pre-computer days. I have one now. I like that little Samurai thing I have. You see, to me, that's my number one EMP-proof vehicle, not the El Camino or the Harley, because it sips fuel. The Harley sips fuel too, but it's just two wheels and that's all it does. It's not going to be able to pull up a tree or something. The Jeep does it. And so really your best vehicle out there would be a pre-computer Jeep. And nothing with a large engine. A 4-cylinder is fine. An old Willys would be fine. But there are not that many of them around. And so just want to put that out there for some things to think about, because if something does happen, what I look at it like this: if something happened in nature and there was an EMP and the United States went down, we might have an attack, because some jerks would probably think it as an opportunity to attack us. I would think so. I hate to say that, but that's just the way they are, man. If the United States is weak and the United States is down, Russia, for instance, is actually pushing popular opinion against the United States as much as possible. And to tell you the truth, I'm going to put out a lot more videos now that I see that how much the popular opinion is going against the United States on Russia specifically. And the thing is, I know our Western elite got a game going. I know they're bad. I know all this type of stuff. But a lot of people just think the other guys on the other side of the world are a bunch of saints. They're not. They're actually even worse. They're even worse than the Western elite. And they're working together. The only guy that's maybe not working together exactly with the Western elite is Putin. But that doesn't mean he's a good guy. He's not a good guy. And I almost hate to say this, because I bring this up on so many videos. Putin is not controlled by the Mossad or the Zionists, okay? You could say that. You pretty much know that. But that doesn't mean he's a good guy at all. At all. I'm not even against the freaking that stuff, where they're talking to Mossad, because I think, well, I don't want to get into this politics shit, but Putin will fucking kill the world, man. That guy will do it. He'll do it. All you're cheering him on like a bunch of idiots. And if America's got that many enemies out there, I say just buy more ammunition, because we got a lot of enemies. I don't know, what the hell can I tell you? Because, the first thing is to defend the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And if we got a lot of foreign enemies out there because Putin's freaking brainwashing them, I don't know what they say about that. I'm going to counterattack it all the way. That's all there is to it. But just remember that an event of an EMP, it may not be from a nation. It could be from an astrological event. And we actually had one like this back in the 1800s. And I can show you a link on that below in the information box. So, if that happens, there's going to be mass turmoil, man. And you know, I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be ready. And I'm going to play low profile. I'm not going to be driving around the street, but having a vehicle that works is very important for many, many reasons other than just transportation.